Hello, thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome to part one of our new webinar series, Breakthrough 2020, brought to you by the Centro Institute. My name is Ryan Manchi. I lead the Centro Institute and I am your host for today. A quick word about who we are. Centro is a provider of software and services for digital advertisers. Our technology is designed to boost media, team, and business performance by enabling advertisers to plan, buy, and analyze campaigns all on a centralized and collaborative system that we call Basis. We have an amazing team of more than 750 media specialists, programmatic prodigies, operations wizards, account leaders, and all-around digital experts working across 44 offices who provide our clients with raving fan service at every stage of any campaign. Please note that a recording of this webinar, as well as the slides presented, will be shared with you, and we'll have some time for some questions at the end. Most of our webinars, if you have tuned in previously, feature Centro's internal subject matter experts, sharing our take on what's happening and where things are headed. But over the next 4 weeks, we are flipping the script. For the Breakthrough 2020 webinar series, I'm excited to feature leaders of Centro's clients on how they are breaking through 2020. They will share how they've worked to transform an evolving industry over recent months and the unique challenges that their organizations have faced, how they've worked tirelessly to strengthen their clients' business. Make sure you register for the entire series to hear different perspectives and walk away with some practical tips to transform your organization. I am excited to listen and to learn, and I'm happy that you're dialed in. Today and over the next 30 minutes, we will be joined by a very special guest, Mr. Matt Wilson. For the past 5 years, Matt has been the president and COO of Eastport Holdings, an ad agency holding company with over 700 employees spread over a dozen operating entities. Matt's core focus is around the growth, the performance, and mergers and acquisitions across those different agencies. And from my conversations with Matt, I really enjoyed hearing his perspective on how he and Eastport's leadership team have really stayed hyper-focused to keep building a smart strategy with all of the changes over the recent months and continue to look at new ways to not just prepare for whatever is ahead, but to truly grow. So after Matt takes us through his thoughts, we will have some time for questions. Feel free to plug in your questions in the questions tab at any point throughout his presentation. And with that, Matt, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Got it. All right, thank you and welcome everybody. Just a bit ourselves, we aren't a PE firm. We're not owned by a PE firm. Much of the ownership has stayed with partners and owners or former owners. We don't have a giant admin group other than treasury management, accounting, and benefits back at our Memphis headquarters. I came out of one of the acquired agencies. I started another agency and we rolled that up into the holdco. And now as president, I'm in charge of forecasting, strategy, pipeline management, and really important is cross-selling, particularly in a big portfolio. You can follow me on Twitter at Caffeine Ferret. That somebody nailed me with that nickname long ago. So obviously you get a trip down my memory lane and what my personality is like, but Caffeine Ferret is my Twitter handle, so give me a follow. And Ryan, if you can go to the next slide, which will be for the portfolio. Everybody, you can go to eastportholdings.com, dive around on our brands a bit. But from a top line perspective, we run 3 portfolios. We've got an ad tech and engagement portfolio. We've got a media portfolio. The portfolio with one item in it doesn't seem like a portfolio, but we just merged 4 of our entities into one to become the Mindstream Media Group. And we've got a full service portfolio. We really are a modern day holdco. We're focused on data, digital, and performance creative. And we touch all areas of the North American and some parts of the global economy, a lot in South America and bits of Europe as well. And as Ryan said, 700 employees, you can do the math to figure out how big we are. So pop onto the next slide. And we'll rock that. So I want to first thank Sean, Centro's leader, and Ryan, our moderator today, for having me on the show. I've worked with Centro for a number of years. They're one of our best partners in the data and programmatic space. They've helped us win business. I remember seeing them at a booth with just a table in the early days when they had first got started, and now they're a force. So thank you for that. And as far as this title goes, Survive and Thrive with Ad Holdco Secrets, months ago, that title would pass the James Patterson test from my time at J. Walter Thompson when he said, a headline is like a book title, man. You want people pulling it off the shelf. Well, then everything changed. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to really focus in on, I would call it sort of the four horsemen of the economic and advertising apocalypse. And we're going to unpack growth in a crisis economy. We're going to look at the emerging work from home model. Really spend some time on walking through diversity initiatives, whether you're a client or an agency, because I'm going to try and take both perspectives, but since I'm an agency guy or professional service guy, it's mostly agency perspectives here. And then we're going to take a shot at 2021 predictions, which are always fun. So next slide, Ryan. So growth initiatives for the crisis economy. The first one I would call pump, poach, and pitch. So pre-COVID, clients assemble these best practice agency collections, and they're very specific. They want everybody to stay in their swim lane, which is a good thing, because if everybody was poaching, it would just be abject chaos. But times have changed, and many of our competitors have been decimated, but they still put on a good front. So, what we want to do is make sure that we tell our clients our credit story, what we've done from a pre-buy point of view to secure post-COVID pricing on media. We're using partners like Centro for proof of concept plans and getting data polls. But really, if you're a client, ask the questions about agency health. And if you're an agency, ask that question or pose it yourself for the other agencies that are in the barn working side by side with you. You're really protecting the client, and if you're too shy to do that, and post-COVID, nobody should be shy to do anything. I got to tell you that every other agency is doing it to you, and that's guaranteed. So welcome to Gladiator School. Second one, singles and doubles win championships. Small budgets right now in this marketing economy are recovering faster than the big budgets. So singles and doubles will win championships. Get in the door, stay there, help your clients out. No more long discussions about, well, the client needs to understand that we need to make a profit too. Well, here's the truth. Clients don't really care. I mean, they kind of care, but they really don't. You need clients, figure it out. Also, the answer to fee and commission reduction conversations, and if you're like us, you've heard a lot of them, the answer to that trick question is always yes. No navel gazing. You want to stay there in the hunt and recover when this economy recovers sometime in the latter part of 2021. But try and negotiate a measure of post-reduction period where they can make you whole. It's fair to ask. They may say no, but it's always good. Staying close to win, we'll cover that in a minute. But on knowing your CMO, this is important, because the biggest fear that they have is what they don't know. You got to understand that clients are working at best on 90-day outlook plans with 30-day in-plan adjustments. They're running in and out of the CEO suite and board meetings with their hair on fire. They're presenting plans, ideas to survive and thrive. So you have to ask yourself, what are you doing to pack her parachute with ideas for her next meeting? And yes, it's out of scope, but I got to tell you, everything that I've learned over the last 90 days, COVID is one big out of scope for our industry. Knowing your CFO for your agency, as well as a client side, super important. Contract reviews, forecasting, adjusting expenses, rent abatements. Our team of Carl Saxon and Brendan Martin at headquarters, killing it with their teams in the field. Good people to have on your side. And last on this one is get perspective within the industry, but sort of outside your company. So for example, Brent Hodges, who runs Mirren Business Development, created a panel that I sit on along with agency leaders like Andrea Van Dam. She's with Stella Rising, cool digital and social firm out of New York. Also Chris Cappuccino and Scott Foreman of Cappuccino and Fujikato out of Seattle. Julie Curtin, she's a partner and president at DCI. They're in the place marketing business, which is travel and tourism. So it's good to see all the different perspectives. So from a resources point of view, Mirren.com is one I look at frequently, participate in. McKinsey Insights, sign up, it's free. They have the best consumer insights and reactions to the COVID crisis, way faster than Nielsen, all of the other services that you pay dearly for. This is free, sign on board. Clients love McKinsey data anyway. And then with SAP and Concur, they do a lot of great seminars and webinars on the C-suite, but also CFOs, and what's the best kind of CFO that you need to have at your side during a crisis. So that's some of the things that we're unpacking for growth initiatives during the crisis, or what I would call the chaos economy. And now we got the next one, which is, hey, surprise, your employees can work from home. I mean, yeah, we hired competent, trustworthy people, but would we trust them with at home and the temptation of Netflix pajamas and children? The crew really stepped up. And in some instances, the work was better, timely. All the administrative BS and red tape of timesheets and expense reports, everybody kept up with it. So super proud of them. And a note about, working from home and then returning to work, besides all the social distancing and sanitization standards at the office when they return, it's really wise to position a safe work environment as a mutual responsibility between associates and the firm's physical space. Otherwise, you're going to run into a liability trap. Associates have an understanding and an obligation to really be in the self-care space and self-oriented space. Check in on your collaboration tools. We really find that you have to invest in training instead of just downloading software. So that's important. We're starting to test Jira, Miro, and Asana. But do yourself a favor, because these things kick out a lot of alerts. And one of our CEOs, Steve Aganis, who runs Mindstream Interactive, he was getting shelled with text, voice message, tickets, calendar, all with equal urgency. He said he literally almost blacked out every day with the flow of information. So slow it down a bit and train everybody on how to use it. Your seat licenses for data and media tools. If you're accessing it from a different IP address, your vendors are going to come with a tin cup and try and raise fees from you. So just watch out and keep an eye on it. And then square dancing, that's what I call, like, if you take a look at the left side of this page, we're all on Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting, whatever. You're a broadcaster now. That's the way you have to act. So go on Amazon, get a ring light and make your face look good, eliminate the shadows, get a new camera, invest in a step and repeat logo, either virtual or vinyl banner in the background. Everybody who talks with a client needs to be branded. So let's just all make a pledge to get rid of all those bad Casablanca ceiling fans or cats in laps or Star Trek backgrounds. And then last, for Office 2.0, it's coming. So when you're 18 months out of lease extinction, get a grip on what you really need an office environment to be. One of our clients, VPM Design out of Charlotte, is an architectural and master planning group that's on the cutting edge of, what's the new post-COVID office going to look like? You're going to need a big IT stack, communication technology, safety and security, associate health, common areas, work from home connections, you name it. But the future may look smaller, still can be cool, still can be a great place for clients to come. Resources, the links below that you'll see when Ryan sends you the deck, links to Jira, Asana, and these last two are YouTube as well as Canvas education courses on setting up live team presentations. Your team presentations cannot look like the image on the left of your screen. All right, we're unpacking a lot. We're gonna start running down the finish line here before we open it up for Q&A. But so this one is diversity without the virtue signal. One thing I know about all people in marketing, advertising, or client alike is we're good to get that first response, that feel good sort of pledge out the door the mantra, it's just not going to be good enough anymore. Example, big clients are promising big changes right now. And I have to ask, are we going to be ready? Are you going to be ready? Yesterday, PepsiCo announced a $500 million 5-year plan to address diversity in the workplace. And Ahmed Islam, who's the CEO of one of our firms, 1035, as well as Sherman Wright, who's the president, they helped pen this. Go read it. But the point I'm bringing up is that if you're in the professional services world, the lens is going to turn on you in terms of the vendors that big companies select to hire. We're already starting to see it in RFPs. You got to be kind of ready. And here's a toe in the water, so to speak. First, understand current compliance law. Go back to the bulletin board where all the federal labor laws are posted and read it. They've been up there since 1964. Start from there and understand what the law is. Then take an HR census. What's your POV on diversity? We have 2 cultural marketing firms in our lineup. We have 3 firms in Southern Florida, 1 in Texas, 1 in San Diego. Great rich Hispanic American populations. Our gender mix is good, but we still have work to do. We've got to widen our approach to opportunity for all. So pledges are one thing, but do something now, do something with substance long-term as well. So figure out how to recruit from historically Black colleges and universities. You got Spelman, Morehouse, Howard, many of the A&M schools. Go beyond internships, start creating development programs, like Accenture, when they bring a cohort class in of people that they want to bring into the practice, those people kind of know what the first 3 to 5 years looks like from a track, development point of view, as well as comp. Lock people down, go deep with it. You can work with focused recruiting firms. If you go to the link below, marcusgrahamproject.org, one of the leaders in the business, and start understanding how to engage, how to recruit, and how to win and keep employees long term. Short term, align with cultural firms, multicultural firms. That gives you the voice, that gives you the impact, and gives you that first step. And understand the impact that diversity or the lack of diversity is going to have on your business. This will be a lasting sea change, regardless of who comes in to the White House in the fall. And then, can you go to market for clients? I mean, objectively, do you have that voice for the multicultural market? Centro has great data tools. Chop into these guys. They can do proof of concept, work the data for you, and get smart. So resources, marcusgrahamproject.com, and then we've got Ahmed Islam's his Twitter handle. Give him a reach out, and he'll help you out and help you voice. He's working with the top firms in the country right now. Predictions. All right, COVID wave number 2. There will be a wave number 2. There will be a psychotic reaction to wave number 2. We don't know if it's going to be the reaction kind of like it's the second wave of the Spanish flu, which killed more people, or if the statistics will be added to wave number 1 of COVID. Doesn't matter. It's coming. Probably will be in the winter, early Q1. That can leverage your spend over the next 4 months. And you're battling against a $12 billion spend for the White House, as well as 2,000 gubernatorial House and Congress races. And the automotive manufacturers are just going to swamp the budgets. Trend into local, trend into regional, get into digital with Centro. I believe there'll be 45 million people still employed first Q. I think PPP is masking much of that. There will be a dumpster fire in commercial real estate. If I knew how to short commercial real estate, I would, but I don't because I'm an advertising guy. So give me a clue if anybody does. Multicultural is going to be the new general market. Do believe there's going to be a recession, media recession through 2021. Out and about brands such as the retail and restaurant and tourism, that's going to be depressed through spring. They got to make something happen late spring, summer of 21, or it's just going to be grim. And the hunker down at home brands, HDH brands, probably historical to increase spend anything delivered by Amazon, groceries, booze, that kind of stuff. I think you'll see a resurgence. And the ad cartels will struggle. Too big not to fail. They built aristocracies. This would be the WPPs and the IPGs, Publicis of the world. They're very, very big and hard to change, and they have to change individually at the agency brand level. They will get their act together. Believe me, they'll come back, but it's an 18-month head start for anybody that's in the mid-tier like us. And, with that, Ryan, I'm kind of done setting up, sort of unpacking all that. I really think that the next 6 quarters are going to define us, the agency world, the client world. If you're not sitting on the edge of your seat, not paying attention, so go out there and make a name for yourself. But, feel free to reach out to me. Reach out to me at Caffeine Fair on Twitter. I'll leave my email address as a safety zone for people to reach out to me as well, and you can hit our website. But with that, if there's any burning questions, Ryan, if you want to kick that up, we can go there, because I love this part of the economy. I'm way more a disaster general than I am a positive times general. For some reason, I'm built for that. So, Ryan, if you got any questions, hit me.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much for that, Matt. And folks that are dialed in, find that questions tab and put in any burning questions that you've got for Matt, whether it was something that he addressed or maybe something that he didn't address. And you're looking for that POV. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, we've got a number flowing in, but I'm gonna ask you about this first before we get into it. Thinking about the kind of media recession that you're predicting into 2021, and then just the craziness that's happened over the last really several months. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen as far as shifts with media investment, and how you think that's going to change a little bit, even over the next several months? You're talking political, the remaining half of the year. Any thoughts there, things that you've seen from a media investment perspective to kind of talk through, and what you're seeing across the various agencies?
I think if you got to start first with the where the advertisers, what they're telling us. And there's a Advertising Perceptions just did this study. It's a study, as all studies are. I mean, some are like, why do inmates want to escape from jail? You kind of already know the question, but this one goes a little deeper, and they interviewed 152 marketing and ad agency execs, top level, C or above. And what I found fascinating was that most advertisers, 89% of them said they're really looking at coronavirus related reasons to know when to resume ad spending. So that's across the country, phasing in from phase 1 to phase 2. They're looking at that much more than economic related reasons. Only like 40% or so were saying, hey, I'm just look for a sign of the economic recovery. And I think that's key for a number of reasons. One is our clients have to go out and market and win anyway. So forget about the economic indication, somehow you got to win. But in terms of recovery, what that shows to you is kind of like build a marketing plan that is tied locally down to the county level. You can do that. It's not hard. Building out from the city level to the state level, and the regions that are opening up first, and time it that way. You're starting to see a lot of discussions about, well, we're going to, Texas and Florida opened up, but, they went first, but now they're seeing a resurgence, so what do we think? And our advice is, look, they're still doing phase 2. Everybody now knows the tools of masking, social distancing, and hand sanitization. The second thing that we really see is that, digital video felt the biggest effect. Pre-COVID and through COVID. And basically that was, when you think about it, it's not necessarily the platform or the efficacy of it, it's the fact that the content has been so strangled by the fact that can't really get out there and do the production wizardry that we used to do. We're doing chop shop stuff, with existing content. That's going to get old soon. But I think, display advertising, paid social, linear broadcast, those are still going to be bellwethers. But I would recommend taking a look at, county, city, state rolling in from the pandemic. That's why I mentioned there will be a second wave. You got to have that in your playbook.
Yeah. Well, and I think the hyper local side of it, knowing that, like you mentioned, you've got certain states, you've got certain municipalities that are opening up, it makes sense. You've got to have a different message to be as relevant as possible. So great points there, Matt. I saw a headline from the 4As talking about one of the big trends that they were seeing was around clients being even more receptive to guidance, to the POVs from agencies, which I feel like is kind of a dust statement, but seeing that just in the times of uncertainty. So I think that's kind of interesting with this question from Charles about how much of your strategy, Matt, is shared by the clients across the full roster of agencies, and do their approaches vary by industry? Any thoughts there, Matt?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Again, back to what we see is these clients having 90-day plans that are adjusted every 30 days. Sometimes you're going to do what the client wants you to do because they're just drilling it and making it happen, and you're in triage mode. Others are looking for hope. When you take a look at the different categories, when you take a look at the industries that we had the most effect against, we had a couple of subsidiaries that specialize in travel, one subsidiary that has a lot of event activation in the beer and tobacco world. You're sort of in a wait and see mode, but you're still bringing green light plans to the table. What if scenarios? When this recovers, what happens? Because the biggest strategy that we're telling our clients is there is a first mover advantage when you're the alpha. Be first. If you're the first, particularly coming up in this next third and fourth quarter, if you're the first in, particularly against the spend of the politicos as well as the automotive industry, we haven't seen much, from a lot of retailers. These are outside of the categories that we have, but let's say it's a tire manufacturer or it's a tire retailer, we're not seeing a lot of sales right now. I mean, when you think about the landscape, no one's like beating the drum for this. So it's like there's magic to be first and to spend big and to own a dominant share of mind. So when the next wave comes, somebody needs tires, somebody needs a toothbrush, whatever it is, a beer, I could use one later. You'll be first in mind.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This question from McKinsey, kind of circling back from an operational perspective. You'd actually shared some of this kind of leading up to the webinar in preparation, but she's asking about predictions you have for hiring freezes and how long they'll last in the marketing industry. Thoughts on that? I know you guys as a executive team had to make some of those tough decisions, but maybe what are you forecasting as far as some of that coming back, hiring people, reinstating, maybe where there were some salary cuts?
Yeah, I think let's take a global perspective about PPP, the advantages and disadvantages. Many firms, ad agencies or clients. I got off the plane at March 14, and prior to that, we had already figured out that, hey, we have to unfortunately furlough people and drop salaries. And when you take a look at PPP, you really had to look at through the window of, all right, so I can bring people back to full salary and bring people off furlough. But what if the business conditions continue to deteriorate, yet the PPP rules say, hey, you got to keep people on past whatever. So you're kind of, people are in that calculus mode right now. I would say that even with the grim thought of 45 million people unemployed, there's good and bad in our environment, which is there's a rich hunting ground for the best in the industry through no fault of their own. Either clients are dismantling their in-house groups, or the agency world is dismantling some of their team members based on a category that just went south. through no fault of their own. This is a great recruiting time. I would absolutely hold a shingle out and start recruiting and start talking to people. In terms of when people maybe started to bring back, I think that's going to be, on the onus of the person that's unemployed or furloughed. You're going to fight for jobs. It's going to be just like it was in the 80s. It's going to be just like it was in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. We've seen similar recessions in our business. We've seen historical issues associated with people attacking our industry. Michael Ovitz at CEAA said, "I'm destroying the creative model." That didn't happen. The people at Facebook and Google said, "We're cutting out the middleman, the bad, evil agencies." That didn't happen. So you got to really be an advocate for yourself, and you may, go take a coding course. You may go online and understand exactly what Google does in their Word program. You may have to go deep and change up some of your credentials. But right now, going up against whoever is the best and the brightest, you need to be the best and brightest when you interview.
Yeah. Makes sense there. One last question I want to get in. I know we're running a little bit over, but I thought this was kind of interesting. You brought up, obviously, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, call for more diversity, more equity, and I know you talked it from a recruitment perspective, which I think makes a lot of sense, and I think that's really admirable. The commitment that Easthold has made, Eastport has made. Can you talk about how you guys are looking to address the lack of diversity and equity, maybe even beyond just some of those entry-level positions, but also at some of the leadership positions?
Yeah, I don't, this is something that has plagued the ad industry since Ogilvy wrote On Advertising. That was one of the books that I read, and I was just like, well, I don't have very many other skills. So I think I could follow this rule book and become an ad guy. And even through all of the media that is fed to us from, what women really want. Well, Mel Gibson started an advertising movie with Helen Hunt, Mad Men, you name it. Man, it is just a weird part of society this is just such a white company group throughout the category. We've made great strides with gender, great strides Hispanic Americans, great strides LGBTQ, and when it comes to Asian Americans and African Americans, everybody has a challenge on that. I don't have a reason why. I don't have that reason. I haven't studied it close enough, but that may not be the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, if you can build, can you build a development program that starts to slot people into an opportunity for executive management in any firm, not just minority marketing, ethnic marketing, or multicultural advertising firms they're just a handful. And I think that's going to be the key. Develop. And it's not just because of skin color. It's going to be going deep with everybody in terms of, you really want these people to be MBA approved, no matter the color, all of your workforce. You guys have to have finance and accounting courses that talk about professional services, billing management. All of these big tools, you have to be able to face off and be as good as an Accenture, a Deloitte, because that's what they're doing. They're sending them to schools. They're sending them to speech writing classes and how to present classes in Camden, South Carolina. Buckley School of Public Speaking is a great place where we send a lot of people. We got to just go deeper. And I think when we do that, it has the benefit for diversity, but it also has the benefit for elevating our entire class of workers in our industry.
Yeah. I like that, of kind of looking across, borrowing some of those ideas from other firms, other industries, and also looking at that longer term plan and really having that long term impact. That's great. Matt, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the presentation, for sharing your thoughts, and for your time. I very much appreciate it. If you all would like to get in touch with Matt, please feel free to reach out to him. Email address, Twitter handle is here, and also learn more about Eastport Holdings. I'm sure he'd love to field some questions and has the right team in place to help you all out. And I hope you all will also look to join us for part 2 of our Breakthrough 2020 webinar series. Next week, we're going to have Mary Ellen Dugan, CMO of WP Engine, where she will bring her 20 plus years of experience in strategic marketing, brand building, and business development at several multinational companies to talk about creating transformational digital experiences. You will not want to miss her and the presentations that she's putting together for us next week. With that, please stay healthy, stay positive. This concludes our presentation for today. I'm Ryan Manchi. This has been part 1 of the Breakthrough 2020 webinar series brought to you by the Centro Institute, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. Thanks, everyone.
Cool.